as I was playing about with my cards earlier. You know, I was always moaning a bit that I'm not that fond of working with reversed cards.
Yeah.
So I always, when I start the pack, I try to have all the cards in the right order. Now, of course, when you shuffle, every now and then a card flies out. It happens here, or you drop some cards, you put them back in. And in this manner, I do think, I agree with you, it could be significant to have a reversed card.
Yeah.
But I am not a big fan of starting to shuffle with a pack where all the cards are all over the place. I think for me, it's more significant if all the cards are in the same way when you start, and then by chance one gets reversed.
That's a different way of thinking of things. I mean, the thing is also, for me, I mean, I just grabbed the deck and I might have turned it around or I might not, or I might turn it around in my hands, I don't know. So it's, so if you all the cards were the right way up and you picked it up, then you could deal out with all the cards upside down, couldn't you? With one the right way round. Yeah. It's not a, people make this a big deal. It's not a big deal. And it doesn't, and a reverse card doesn't mean the reverse of the meaning either.
No, sometimes it's not relevant, eh?
It's showing some difference with the other cards, which may be to do with the meaning.
Yes.
But it can be like a fish out of water. You know, you're going along with your gang of mates, but you don't actually feel that you really want to do what everyone else is doing. But you can't change because you don't want to look weird with your mates. You see? So I mean, that can be with family, that can be in work situations, that, you know, any group of people, you know, we're not always congruent with what their ethos is or the beliefs or why you're together in the first place. So you're going to end up with some kind of conflict, and it might be an inner conflict as much as anything else. Those cards show up, you see. But I mean, there's nuances within this as well. You know, if all three were reversed, I mean, it could just, in those cases, those three cards, it could just mean a discomfort with what they're representing. Yes.
Like the hangman, the upside down position of the hangman also represents discomfort.
Yeah. It can, if they're all the right way up, it's a man that's looking for trouble with work, could be, you know, wants to fight with his boss or something like that. But if they're all reversed, it might just be he's just not comfortable with exactly what's going on. You know, but in all of them, there's a lack of water involved. So he's out of touch with his feelings, or he hasn't had nurture in his life. His father didn't want him, or, you know, there's all sorts of ways and things are going with that. And this is the example actually of the fourth way. You know, things that come up in your mind as we're talking, this dialogue that's going on between you and me, that is bringing out other aspects to those three cards. That's why dialogue is important in the whole sort of situation.
Yeah. I have another question. So I've
right.
As you see, I'll take the examples I've made earlier just to check with the the meaning I gave to it. But I have a question. When I did this, you told me explicitly, don't read your own cards.
Yes.
So here, to be honest, I have not thought. How is this reading my own cards or what? I did not. You know, you don't focus on anything. You don't ask any questions.
Well, yeah.
Just busy. The telly's playing. You shuffle.
Yeah. The thing is that particularly with people who are new, that they constantly relate their life to the cards. And there's sometimes, you know, I'm working with a student and we just pick three cards at random. It invariably is about the student. It just, you know, it can't not be. But this is why sometimes it's a good idea not to have a preconceived idea of what the cards are about anyway. Let's just see what comes up. And that can still be relevant, but it's not, but then it's up to us to find out what that relevance is in the
It is as a
situation.
brain exercise anyway.
Yeah, it's a good exercise to do. Because, you know, you can say, oh, well, we're doing reading for a granny, you know. And if it was to those three cards of the Prince of Swords and the Five of Wands and the Eight of Discs, that could be her worrying about her grandson in his job. He's in a dangerous job or something like that, or she thinks he shouldn't be in that kind of job. But I mean, then in that case, she'd be kind of supplying the water, but it's actually more to do with air, isn't it? Because it'd be worry than anything else. You see. So it's. I mean, if you said, you know, I want to know about my colleague, and those three cards came up. I mean, this it could point to potential conflict coming up, or conflict you've already had with that person, couldn't it?
It's one of the famous fives, eh? Strife.
Strife.
Five,
and it's an interesting one because it could actually mean that person, you know, that colleague who's going through a bad time, you know, it's not exactly going to get a hug from you, but it might need some kind of sympathy or something.
It also means it also means conflicts with authority, doesn't it?
Yeah. So that could, you know, if that was your boss. But I mean, the way those cards are, is it the boss angry frustrated with the way you're doing things, or you frustrated with the way your boss does things? You see. So you'd have to still kind of work these things out.
I see. Yeah. Well, let's take the next three. I'll take the one that I had ready here. It is all different universal truths that we are proclaiming, actually. It's just some of them are applicable to the current situation. Some may be on, but it is general truth. This is something I have found as well when I am doing my inner working. The cliches you get, the very general answers you get, which can be frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, but you need they're convenient labels, aren't they? I mean, the other aspect to this is that these are cards that you picked earlier. But they could also, I mean, they also are going to have relevance to me as well as the reader. You know, I'm not divorced from it. So there's aspects of me from my own situation in life, just as much as for you, for whatever you were thinking about when you picked those cards. You see, you know, we can't divorce ourselves, either of us. So if these cards were for someone else, and you pick those cards and we're discussing them, they'd also have relevance for us in some way too.
It's because in the end, you relate to your own experience for reading the card.
It's inevitable. Yeah, it's inevitable. You know, and that's not a bad thing. It's when your neuroses or obsessions or unresolved issues dominate the reading. That's a problem. You need to better divorce yourself, but also there's an element of truth in them as well.
But also you are never aware of the person you have in front of you and how much you can actually really relate to him. But that person could be a stark raving lunatic. You don't know. That man could follow a lot.
It's still going to have relevance.
Yeah, probably it's going to have relevance, but it might be confusing.
Yeah, but people are confused and they have confusing lives.
Yes,
that's why they come for readings. They're looking for clarification, aren't they? So you need to keep on just practicing. You know, I recommend to everyone basically. You've got to do 3 card readings. It's the simplest form, and it's the most dynamic. And those 3 cards, you know, they kind of fuse together to create the 4th position that doesn't exist, but does exist. And that, you know, the 3 cards is the meanings that are generally applied to those cards. And then the 4th position is as we demonstrated, the other ways you can look at those 3 cards and how they work together. And elemental dignity is a simple system. It's not rocket science in many respects.
No, yeah.
It's a bit like, you know, wearing a green jumper with red trousers or something, clashing
Just
clothes,
Christmassy, that.
spots, polka dot spots with stripes or something. It's sort of like bloody hell. They can bring out those kind of things as well, and they're things that we can pick up on but don't necessarily articulate. But nevertheless, it's still there as well. So there's a whole world of three. The 3 in 1 is just a vast kind of cosmos, a universe in itself to explore.
But now we have the 3 chord readings. That's the 3 mother letters, let's say. The 3 mother letters, 3 chord readings. Then you have Yod He Vav He, which logically would give you a 4 chord reading.
Yeah.
And then you have the four elements, but then you have the 5th element, spirit, which could normally give you a system for working with 5 chord readings.
Yeah, I mean, spirit is the unification of the 4 energies. If you have fire, water, air, and earth in balanced order, that gives you spirit automatically. It's the quintessence. The problem is that when I've discussed, talk about 3 cards, create a 4th one. When you add a 4th card in there, you actually have to do a totally different system. It doesn't work. So when you're reading sequence of cards, you're basically reading groups of 3 cards along, and there's this 4th kind of energy that's manifested. With the Yod He Vav He, you're talking about this is the previous stage in the opening of the key spread when you cut the cards into 4 piles, and you can rate them to Yod He Vav He, which is fire, water, air, and earth. And basically, the interesting thing is that the thing that most people are always going to be interested in is the 4th position, which is earth, because that's the future.
That's the future, yes.
And the 3 other piles are kind of those. They're those 3 cards that we read earlier, but now they're separate in their own positions, and you can spread out the sequence for each of those and read the cards in groups of 3s to create the 4th position too. But always when you have, there's a quantum leap that you go through from reading 3 cards to give you this imaginary 4th position to actually having 4 cards. It's a totally different environment, which is harder to explain it, but it also gives you the structure of the supernal triangle and the tree of life, and there's a mass of magical and spiritual powers and energies that go into. So the 3 in 1 in the sequence, that has that too, but not in a kind of fundamental way that having the 4 positions does. And that's why in my book, The Tarot and the Magus, it was about reading a stream of cards. I wanted to do 4 piles, but that's another 2 or 3 books. And at the time, I was on a kind of schedule. I didn't have enough time to do that, so I thought, okay, well, let's stick to those 3 things. But those 3 things plus the 4th is the fundamental of reading 4 piles of cards.
But that's what I was thinking, actually, because in the end, couldn't you just read a 4 card reading as you put the cards into position of the 4 piles, and then you have past, fears, desires, future.
Past, desires, fears, and future.
Oh, excuse me, the other way. Past, desires, fears, future. Yes.
I've been doing it for 30 odd years. What you can do is read the top cards of the stacks. You turn them.
So doesn't that count as a 4 card reading then?
Yeah, but the 4th position is you already have a card in the 4th position then.
Yes.
So it's acting in a slightly different way to how you were doing it before, when there wasn't one and you had to invent it. And the funny thing is, actually, people have no trouble coming out with meanings for the 4th position. when we do workshops and things, you know, they're very confident. Even sometimes you get 3 court cards together, and people just pile in and come up with stuff. It's very interesting. So there aren't those restrictions that people think you get with a 3-card reading, you know, whatever. You know, oh, there's no positions. Well, you don't need it. They're just 3 cards, and they define themselves. And then you've got to relate it to the person who's having the reading. And also there's an aspect of it to yourself, which you may or may not reveal to your client. It depends. You see.
I'd like to go back to the element spirit one time as well. So which cards belong to the element spirits in a stack? You have the 4 aces.
Yeah, that's it.
And why does Golden Dawn mention the Aeon, and why is the Aeon spirit and fire? This is a confusing system they made. Eh?
Well, no, because you're working within the limitations. I mean, the interesting thing is that in technical terms, in terms of the 3 and the 1, the 1 being the 4th position, which is Earth, you can't have all 4 elements represented in 3 cards.
No,
it's
impossible. Always an imbalance.
It's always an imbalance. Well, it can be a balance, but it's not. There's something missing. There's going to be something missing, which is this 4th thing. So in technical terms, the Earth element doesn't exist. It's a dual thing. It's there, it's not there. It's like quantum mechanics. It's Schrodinger's cat, and all these other paradoxes that you get in quantum mechanics. Is it a wave? Is it a dot?
It's a manifestation of the 3 other elements.
It's manifesting or demanifesting or whatever. And the problem, the thing with the so technically the Earth element doesn't exist. Matter doesn't exist in quantum mechanics. It's matter is space, but we just don't see it like that.
It's all particles, I suppose.
Particles, yeah. Particles.
Quantum mechanics is all part in.
Quantum mechanics, yeah. You know, it's the slit experiment. You know, and depending on how you do it, you get random patterns or you get lines. You know, there's all these paradoxes that come out, and it's exactly the same with this system. And because the major arcana are based upon the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet have astrological attributions that were kind of codified in the Sepher Yetsirah. So within the Sepher Yetsirah, they define the 22 major cards into 3 groups. There's the 12 signs of the zodiac.
And the 12 double letters, eh?
Yeah, single letters.
Single letters, yeah.
And the planets, 7 planetary cards, letters.
7 double letters.
Yes. And then you have the 3 mother letters, which is air, water, and fire. So there's
Shin. I know these.
Shin, yeah. So there's no room for a 4th element in this thing, but it's something that's created or generated, and it's something that you need not there.
Well,
if you like. So what happens is that the Golden Dawn, you know, because spirit is missing, and
that's 2 elements missing actually. Yeah, there's more than just Earth missing.
But so you end up sort of 2 cards have to do double duty, and the fire and spirit they're kind of related anyway. And Saturn is the heaviest planet, and that's going to relate to Earth, which is a heavy kind of thing as well. And how it's shown in the Sepher Yetsirah they're called 31 bis and 32 bis. This is the German word meaning for extra, basically. So they have an extra row in the system to account for having Earth and Spirit. But actually, you can see Spirit is actually the entire 22 letters. And also the princesses as well can do duty for that too. But I mean, it's like in life, you have locum doctors. Things don't. You always need ambiguity. You know, people try and make it exactly this is how it is and everything else. But really, you don't, you know, you need ambiguity. You need things to be one thing or another. It's in the Sanskrit language is called the twilight language, because there's ambiguities and things. And
Like why the elements are also mixing in the astrology.
yeah. So you've always there's always is an overlap, and which means you can connect things up, but also go a different way with things when you need to. You see. So it's like anything. If you know the rules, if you know the customs of where you live and how things are done, you can conform to those rules and customs. And you can also subvert them or do things differently based upon your knowledge to achieve something as well. You see, in every country, we all know ways round things, around the system. You know, you have to bend the system in some form. Otherwise, one, there's no fun, and two, it's just the way things work.